Three, two, one. Welcome to the New Earth Architect Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Kiyoshi. What is this podcast about? Who am I? Those are some really good questions. The podcast is about everything, about my life experience, the shared experiences that you and I have, the awakening experience mainly. What is an awakening experience? Well, I'll read you what ChatGPT has to say about it first. This is how we're opening. It says spiritual awakening is a process of returning to our true essence, peeling back the layers of societal conditioning and reconnecting with the soul. It's a profound shift in consciousness that changes the way we see ourselves and the world around us. Yeah, pretty much. I think that everyone has had their own experience or is having their own experience of awakening. Um, just even trying to describe it for me from an intellectual space is a little bit tough. Even starting this recording is a little bit tough for me because most of the time when I speak to things like this, it's not out of the process of thinking, right? It's more an intuitive type of deal. So I have to make myself comfortable or get myself into a sort of a flow state and comfortable state to be able to have conversations like these. Um, some of the descriptive information I think you could say is subjective, but there's so many like experiences for a lot of people regarding awakening that you can say that there's uh, a templated effect almost to it, insofar as what types of things occur that sort of potentially define what an awakening is, right? Um, I think that the first thing for me would be uh, being very dissatisfied in things like the workforce, the school system, healthcare, understanding that there's something a little bit off about how it was that we were brought up in these systems in these different environments, right? And I think that when you become a little bit older, you become disillusioned. It's a mixture of excuse me, critical thinking with maybe intuitional or spiritual tugging, and then that combination tends to sort of ring a bell or turn a light on that says I'm working for this company um, to pay for my existence here. Meanwhile, this company is doing this, paying into the government, sending my money overseas for wars, not taking care of the things that I think or thought that they were using those funds for. And it's not only just about money, but ultimately, when we look at ourselves and we sort of create a little bit of separation and draw back from ourselves and zoom out a little bit, we tend to um, see ourselves potentially as like a fucking commodity, right? Um, we're a resource, but to whom? To what? So if anything, I would say that the awakening experience is at least coming to some point of clarity that has you begin to question um, those structures that seem overbearingly authoritative in some kind of way. That could even go for, like I said, the workforce, the police state, um, the jail system, the military industrial complex, um, the healthcare and education system. I mean, these are almost somewhat uh, redundant in the the structures and the building blocks and foundations of how they were developed in the first place. So, um, I think that what this podcast will be about is essentially sort of unpacking some of these things, not choosing sides, not looking to be polarizing in any way, but to at least present the question outside of what it is that we are being somewhat force fed to think, right? Um, so yeah, so I have as many questions as you do, right? I don't have any answers per se. The only thing that I am an authority on is myself, my own experience, right? And so I've gone through a number of different things in my life, which I think um, allows me to feel comfortable enough to offer some guidance to some people who might be a little bit um, less experienced with how to dive into the practices of, let's say, spirituality when confronting these elements of disillusionment, distaste, not wanting to participate, understanding that things like the media landscape and control over what we think and how we purchase and buy and what um, really drives us. Um, yeah, I'm going a little bit deeper than I should maybe in the very beginning, but yeah, this is a journey, right? It's a journey. I've taken a certain kind of path in my life, which consists of a number of different um, hiccups, intentional stops, leaps of faith, and more. And here I am. I wouldn't say that I'm super comfortable in sharing and expressing my viewpoints on things, but that's what I'm going to be doing. And my thoughts and opinions don't have to have any bearing on anything that you feel or think. Um, but I know one thing, and that is that I try for the most part to operate out of a place of love and empathy and compassion and joy and wanting to assist in the support of growth for others, right? Whether that's in relationships, in their own self development, spiritual development, um, and just their own evolution as a human being, right? In general. So I hope that that makes sense. It might seem a little bit disjointed, even though there's no audience or anything like this here. I don't know why I'm a little bit nervous. I think that I've gone through different iterations of being a public speaker to a degree, whether that's been in like business or, um, I've owned my own companies in the past. Um, my military experience, or just maybe being a elder sibling, right? I got three younger brothers that sort of look up to me to an extent, and yeah, but still, it is it's almost like sort of creating a piece of music and then sharing that with the masses, sort of letting people in. But that's what I've been called to do, and I've been called to do it for a very long time. I work more situationally one on one with a lot of people in regards to spiritual guidance, tapping into parts of themselves that are newly being revealed, right? That they might have questions to. Um, just sharing my experience and allowing for their understanding to be open and sort of piggyback based off of whatever to them makes sense. So this is me doing this on a broader scale, right? To hopefully a larger audience, maybe, if it's just one person who tunes into this podcast, great. Um, I will say that I think that I'm a little bit more humorous and funny than what I'm probably coming across as right now. Um, but once again, that's just because I'm a little bit nervous and I don't couldn't tell you why, but maybe we'll figure that out together. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to start with the present moment, right? What better place to start than with right now, right? The now, the present. You hear it talked about a lot. What does that consist of for you? Um, for me, let's say if I were to be asking myself, if I were to be sitting across the table from myself, how would I present that? Would I basically say, what does now represent to you? Does that mean me sitting here in this chair speaking to essentially myself or to you? Um, or when you're presented with that information, do you think about the times, right? The era in which we live, the state of the world, right? It can be all of that. It just sort of depends on where you're looking from. But the interesting thing is that we're always looking from our own internal experience. That's how we process information, right? So all that exists out in the world, whatever exists in your reality, is what you are choosing to give attention to, right? Um, or how you choose to perceive it also has a big impact on how prevalent that works within your space insofar as creating different emotions or reactions or responses to what's happening around you. So when I say now, I'll speak to the general, um, times, like what's happening in the world right now. We got a couple different wars going on. Um, we have weird shit taking place in like Hollywood and the music industry in the world of celebrity, right? We're seeing this strange dismantling. I don't know what you guys see. That's sort of what I see and have seen or felt for quite a while. We're seeing the some sense of unsustainability in institutions that I think that we've held a long regard for in trusting and just sort of assuming that at face value they were or are who they say they are, right? Or like especially we'll talk about government in that regard. Um, so are we awakening to a time where people are just becoming wise to the fact that um, these institutions that we've trusted for so long ultimately don't have our best interest at heart? That there is some element of manipulation and an agenda to essentially try to control us in whatever way you see that as being expressed. Control how we spend our money, how we vote, how we utilize our time and our energy, and then that which we give our attention to, right? This can go a whole number of different places, but I'll try to keep it as grounded as possible in the 3D before we start expanding beyond that. Yeah. Um. So as I mentioned, we have different wars going on. We have uh, signs of financial collapse. I mean, we're already dealing with a lot of financial hardship. I'll go ahead and speak to the United States, right? Because um, a lot of people are understanding that their tax dollars don't go very far. Their dollars don't go very far in the grocery store or purchasing, um, the things that they need for themselves and their families. Um, so how sustainable is this, right? And I'll add another extra layer to that. That which we are purchasing on, we're spending on goods and etc. In the grocery store, and what are we even buying? We're paying more money for something to essentially say that it's not poison, right? Organic versus non-organic, right? Like what's going on? Um, what can you trust? And I'm not here to be an alarmist in any way. I'm here to bring things to light and bring it to the table for discussion, um, and for myself to learn and gain different insights and views on things that maybe I feel like I've had my mind um, made up about or potentially closed off to. Right? Um, you know, there's something to be said also for rehashing a lot of things that are already perceived to be negative out there. I think that we see enough of it. So I do want to make sure also that I am being um, mindful of every bit of information that I bring to the table that can be perceived as negative or bad or alarming. I want to make sure that I'm showing the duality in that there's also another side to that coin that expresses love, hope, joy, freedom, liberation, um, etc. So it's a complex thing, right? Life, that is, and the ambiance of life, that which we sort of build in our time and energy here, the short, very brief, limited time that we have here. So yeah, so I hope that makes sense. Again, I might, you know, go off the rails a little bit because I'm not um, planning a lot of this content right out the gate. I want to just sort of start off with what is in my head and what's in my heart and hopefully bring some cohesion there. And if someone out there can sort of relate to that and then sort of piggyback and bring some kind of trajectory to that cause, then that would be great. Some kind of focus to it. Um, so it might seem a little bit scatterbrained in the beginning, but I hope that you guys bear with me. In all of this, everything that I've mentioned, the ways that we see the world, the things that are taking place in our environment, around the world around us, all the things that can be perceived to be gross and weird and negative and ugh. I think that the backbone to this podcast is is the attempt to offer solutions to um, that which we become aware of that can sort of cause us grief, dis-ease, harm, depression. That's where a lot of people are at. So if I can offer anything through this podcast also that helps to soothe and alleviate that dis-ease, then that's what I want to do. So I'll most likely be referencing, um, elements of self care and meditation, meditative practices, yogic practices, alchemizing of the body's inner elements to make sure that we are fortifying ourselves, our bodies, our minds, our spirits in a way that allow us to navigate through this rubble of a sort of collapsing debris field. Once again, not to sound alarmist, but that's just sort of how pictures painted in my mind at times. That's not to say that um, there aren't tons of beautiful gardens and concrete roses out there, just waiting to be um, brought to the surface, right? In order for uh, something new to grow, the old we must die. I don't believe or disbelieve anything, but that resonates with me in my understanding on a spiritual level and on somewhat of a literal type of way also. So what we're here to do is, I guess, sort of sift through the rubble a little bit, and then see how we can grow moving forward, right? New Earth architect, right? That is understanding that this shit is not sustainable, whatever it is, being fed poison. And that's in so many different ways, whether that's through our media, whether that's through the propaganda that's inherent within the political landscape, whether that's literally our food and our water, whether that's through weather manipulation, modification, these things. There's a lot of unnatural things taking place that are creating separations between us as a species and the natural world around us, right? So how do we bridge that gap? Um, so yeah, so stick with me. This is episode 1. I'll be speaking on a couple of different topics, and that will just be me maybe waxing poetic, maybe sitting on a fucking soapbox. I don't know. Um, I guess you'll absorb that the way that you do and make up your mind um, from there. But hopefully, we can all sort of just come together and understand that at the root of all this, there's a choice um, to become acutely aware of these things and then detach in a manner from that which we cannot control, to give attention and energy to the cultivation and propagation of the things that are based out of love, joy, empathy, compassion, etc. So stick around, we'll see what comes up. Thank you. Love, light, and blessings.